As your senator, building a modern transportation system will be one of my priorities because investing in transportation is investing in our people. For many working families, transportation isn't just about getting from one place to another. It's about opportunity. It's about keeping a job, getting an education, and building a better future. A strong economy depends on a strong middle class, and a strong middle class depends on having the tools people need to succeed. That's why transportation matters. When workers can get to work reliably, business can grow. When businesses grow, jobs are created. And when jobs are created, families thrive. Imagine a Guam where opportunity is within reach for everyone. I'm Donna Munikanata, and I approve this message.
Please re-elect Senator Shelley Calvo, number 8 on the Republican side of the ballot. She has served Guam with compassion, integrity, and results. She is rooted in service, guided by balance, and driven by community. She cares.
This is Shelley Calvo, and I approve this message.
Kandit from Sunday night through Wednesday night is dedicating our evening show to providing to you our interviews with the gubernatorial teams. Saturday through Wednesday. Saturday night we presented to you my December 2023 interview with Joshua Tenorio. This was shortly after he announced that he was running for governor. I had the opportunity to interview him. So long before the political corruption case, long before he selected Tina Munoz Barnes, and of course, long before the SPED short bus scandal that erupted last night. In January of this year, I had the opportunity to interview Frank Blas Jr. and Mary Okada, and we played that interview for you last night. Tonight, from an interview that I had the opportunity to conduct on Saturday, we will present to you our interview with Therese Terlaje and Sabina Perez. I want to note that this was before last night's scandal, and so that question didn't come up. However, coincidentally, there's a portion of this interview that it doesn't address the scandal, but addresses the issue of people who have special needs and people who live in poverty. And I have to apologize because there's also a portion of the interview where what was said took my breath away, and I there was a pause that happened. You'll see it. It's I had to gather myself back up in order to continue to the interview. So just so you know, we are interviewing Joseph Augustine and Dwayne St. Nicholas tomorrow, and presenting that interview to you tomorrow night. And then on Wednesday, we are interviewing Tony Atta and EJ Calvo and presenting to you that interview on Wednesday night. So on the other side of the commercial break, we will get straight to our interview with Therese Terlaje and Sabina Perez for governor and lieutenant governor of Guam. Stick with us.
Tony and I got married at an early age, and back then, we didn't have much. But from the very beginning, Tony was determined to create a better future for our family. Shortly after we were married, Tony joined the Army, and we moved to our first duty station at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Those weren't always easy years, but they taught us the importance of sacrifice, faith, and commitment. What I've always admired about my husband is that he's the same person at home that people see in the public. He's honest, he's humble, and he genuinely cares about people. He's a devoted husband, a loving father, and a proud grandfather. Tony and I have been together for 43 years, and I've been blessed to stand beside him through every chapter of our lives. I'm Annette Umpinko Atta, and I humbly ask for your support and vote for my husband, Tony Atta, for governor of Guam.
I'm Tony Atta, and I approve this message. Together, we'll put Guam first. Transportation, tourism, customs, utilities, and federal and foreign affairs touch every family, every business, every day. Jesse Michael Anderson Lujan believes Guam can be greater together by fighting for cabotage exemption, expanding the Philippine visa waiver program, and opening new doors for tourism investment and opportunity. Vote Jesse Lujan. Leadership you can see. Accountability you can trust.
I'm Jesse Michael Anderson Lujan, and I approve this message.
This past year, we've been focused on moving Guam forward, strengthening oversight in our schools, supporting our veterans, standing up for students and families, and working on policies that open doors for our people. For me, public service has never been about headlines. It's about showing up, listening carefully, and doing the work that matters. There's still more to accomplish, and I'm ready to keep pushing ahead. I'm Senator Vince Borja, and I humbly ask for your continued support.
Buenas, Senator Terlaje.
Buenas.
Buenas, Senator Perez. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Troy.
Thank you.
Let's start this out. What do you think the average Guamanian thinks and feels when they say they're tired of the corruption?
I think they see, well, first of all, I think they are struggling, most of them, and that they feel like the government is not necessarily helping them, but they can see that the government is very much helping, some others, and not on a fair basis. So I think that that's prevalent. They feel like hiring is not fair, and they feel like contracts are not necessarily fair, and I think so that's why they feel it a lot, and particularly because they are struggling as well to keep up with the cost of living.
Yeah, I think I agree with that statement. I think a lot of times when hiring, these high-level hirings happen, people already know who's going to get picked, and they feel that it's already decided versus it being based on merit. And so we see above-step hirings happen when there was no reason for that, because they could have followed, competitive hiring practices. I've seen it through my oversight of agencies too, where there's this use of what's called detailed assignment, where an individual who's at an entry level gets to be promoted, and that promotion is continuously done, even though it's 180 days. They found a way to get around it. So obviously there's issues with the getting around the merit hiring. And so that has a morale. It really affects morale, affects the services of the agencies, because, it's not really, basically it hurts morale, it hurts productivity.
How have you heard that let's stick to this issue of hiring in the government of Guam, right? And also employment in the government of Guam. How do you understand this affects those employees in the rank and file who do not get these types of preferential treatments?
Well, of course, the morale, as Senator Perez said, and I think when they don't feel like they're being recognized, their work, and it's really sad because some of them are longtime employees, very hardworking, but if they don't feel like their work is being recognized, then they're not going to care that much about it anymore. And so I'm afraid that's what we're beginning to see. Those who are just getting discouraged and feeling like they're not going to do their best because the government's not recognizing their best. We've actually passed laws. We want to see these things, so we made it open. You have to show, detailed hiring. You have to give the legislature notice now of above-step hiring, just so that there's a record, because otherwise the record, you put it up for 10 days and it can disappear. No one has to see it. But we really want to focus on merit-based hiring.
What's your understanding of the complaints that government and Guam employees have about preferential treatment that they're not getting? And whether it's complaints made in the public realm or maybe quietly made because people are afraid, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I've brought it to the attention of the directors, and unfortunately there wasn't any resolution. So in the case of DRT, there was hiring, limited term of hirings, and they were not qualified for those positions. And so what happens is that the ones that are within the agency that know how to do the work are training the one that was just hired, and they're getting a higher pay. So it really hurts morale, it hurts productivity, and that cumulative impact within the agency, and also that also affects the services to our people. So this is something that Senator Therese and I would like to change. We want to change that system. We want to go back to upholding the merit system and having proper successional planning, so people are, satisfied with their work environment, which has a direct impact on the services to our people.
How would you make this change? How would you convince, or if you're elected governor and lieutenant governor, what will you do that will help to convince the regular rank and file employees who just go to work every day to do their job that this is an administration that's going to be fair for them, and that when they do the right things at an excellent level, they're going to be rewarded, and that when they are not doing the right things, they're going to be disciplined and it's going to be fair?
Well, I think we should, of course, make it very clear. We have openings in the government, for example, in these critical social work, right, CPS, yet we still are hiring limited term. And so we need to show them the pathway that they're, for social workers, we want to recruit them, we want to retain them, we want to show them there's a pathway that you can, grow in the government. And we need to really prioritize that. So show that, make that, those announcements broader, more known and fair when they are actually implemented. But it's really the limited hiring. There's so much of it, it feels like right now, or at least that's what I hear. So the longtime employees feel like, they're training others to take over their jobs, as opposed to, they get promoted to do additional work.
Yeah, and the people that we hire in the cabinet, we want to make sure that they are, being fair and professional and ethical in how they do their job. So it really starts from the top. One of the things that I included in the budget bill, so there was an amendment to the performance-based budgeting to ensure that there's training in regards to organizational evaluation to see what is the capacity needed to fulfill the mandates of the agency, and as well as what is needed for successional planning, which is a deficiency within our government. As you can see, if you look at our budget, we keep there's a section in the bill where we allow for those that retired to come back to the agencies, and that's really a symptom of our lack of successional planning. And so there's already amendments and laws in place that we just need to follow through.
Thank you for bringing up the appointment of a cabinet. What would your cabinet look like? How would you select them? And how will you, or will you allow the people of Guam to view the selection process and be along every step of the way?
Well, I think we're definitely going to open it so that they can all apply. And but I feel like, for me, I have a basic criteria that is, you need to be willing to kind of do it the way we're describing. You need to be open. You need to be able to discuss these things with people who ask you in your own agency and people who ask you from the media. It has to be open. I don't like gag orders. I feel like all these governments where we've had gag orders on these directors, that's a disaster to me. That's one thing very prevalent right now, it seems. Everything has to go through a certain person in order just to be told, even to a senator. We can't get the actual facts until they're censored, and I don't want that. I think the people should know all the facts. We're trying to put these all up online as much as possible, financial facts, procurement facts. But so openness, transparency, they've got to be kind of experts in that and be able and willing to do that.
Experts in transparency and
openness. Yes, open government for sure. I don't want any, there's no reason to bypass that unless there's an emergency. We have, very limited emergencies. We should be planning more.
Yeah, and if we can expand the discussion about corruption, right? So the other area is procurement, right? And so when I first started my career in the 35th Guam legislature, one of the first things I had to do was the oversight of the quarantine facilities, where they circumvented the procurement law. And emergency procurement really is just 3 quotes. So that's the simplest and easiest way to get procurement, and how did they botch that one? And so the problem, I think, is really there's a disconnect with what government procurement is and what private procurement is. There's a distinction because with public procurement, we have to ensure that vital taxpayer dollars is being safeguarded. We can't just go out and buy something at the store we have to show how we went about this business of procuring a service or good or construction. And so that was one of the things that I saw was the really dismissal of procurement procedures, and that has continued to this day. And really, when we had when I attended the chamber conference on procurement, they just want to be treated fairly. They want to know what is the standard operating procedure when it comes to procurement. And from what I could see, there is no standard, and the training is not standardized. Luckily I was trained by the guru himself, Attorney Brown, John Brown, and he guided me through this process of the quarantine facilities, of procurement, modifying procurement law. And so for those that say, we need to just chuck the system, I would question it, because many of them who say that haven't been trained on what is the proper way of procurement. And really there isn't a fast shortcut to change procurement. It's the hard work of learning the system and learning to do it right and fairly.
And making it standard. This is a thing. You can go to different agencies and they will interpret it differently, do it differently, and that's a problem. So making it standardized with all the directors that this is how we are interpreting this, hopefully with the consent of the AG, and this is how we implement, so that everybody knows the rules. The rules do not change agency or director to director.
But Senator, isn't this already in the law, or isn't this something that already should be expected? Isn't this like a fundamental thing?
Yes, of course, that's what I'm saying. These are fundamentals. We're really basics. It's the basics. We feel that we cannot grow Guam if we can't get the basics right. This is really the thing. The basics have to be firm. They have to be that we are following open government, that we are going to be transparent, that we are willing to talk to, that agencies are willing to talk to their employees, that they respect and honor the experience of these employees and their expertise. We have directors coming in that have never done this in their life, and we've got lifelong employees, in the system that really do know it. And I think we just need to respect that and get their input much more, and then again, no gag orders, and then follow procurement, follow these mandates. And I feel like, so that consistency will come from us. It will also come, hopefully, in concert with the AG. I feel like there's so many things you can standardize instead of reinventing that wheel every single time. You want to go out for these kinds of bids. This is what we've decided with the AG. This is the way you do it. Everybody does this. Everybody, interprets this the same way.
Yeah, it's not that we're against reform. It's just that we want everything standardized and everybody trained to that same standard.
Well, that in itself would be a reform, because that's not what's happening right now, right?
It seems like there's a lot of discretion with the directors that in procurement. And you've seen it in DPW and Simon Sanchez.
That's been our finding, yes.
Yes, huge discretion, too much. Yeah, so.
And we're going to prioritize it. I mean, there's something called the Guam Procurement Advisory Council. They haven't met. And so that is key to really creating standard protocols across the government. That should be a priority. And that will be a priority. Senator
Chris Barnett came up with a term. He called it, instead of procurement, it's parcurement. And I think what he meant was it was a play on the term pari and procurement. And it's a colloquial ding on the government of Guam that has existed for decades. And since I was a kid, I've heard this. You're not going to get ahead in the government of Guam if you're not part of the pari system.
Yeah, if you don't know someone, you're not. That's not your part. Yeah.
And if that's not your team didn't win,
right,
or whatever, right? Or it's not your turn. And it goes to this idea, I think, I don't know if you share this, that when people think about corruption, that's the first thing that comes to mind, is it's not what you know, it's who you know. How if you were elected governor and lieutenant governor, how are you going to convince before you get elected, how are you going to convince voters that you are the team that is going to beat down the party system?
Well, because we've lived through this as senators for almost 10 years now. And we've seen the progress that we think the government could make. And then we've heard from all the other side, the employees, the businesses, about how it has not been fair for them. And this is a thing. So we find that it's a lot of discretion left in directors, and really that's the key. So you have to kind of standardize their use of that discretion, right, across the board. In procurement, in hiring, you know, we can adjust the system for the outcome that we want, and sometimes very unfairly. So I think that we have to have more than one set of eyes on everything. That's another way.
Yeah, and I mean, you see our work that we've done, you know, from the oversight of the quarantine facilities to the recent, you know, trying to slip in an amendment to eventually give preference to a vendor on our live contract. So, you know, we accomplish what we set out to do, and we fight for what is right, even though, you know, we're up against, I guess, difficult. We fight for what is right, even though it's difficult.
We intend, when we go in first, one of the, you know, the things that we're going to do early are review all the existing contracts. What are the deliverables? What are the time frames? And are we actually getting those? And are they good quality? We have to have a quality control. Otherwise, we're going to end up with buildings that fall apart and after a year that the contractor's gone. So somebody should be looking for, when does the contract end? So we don't have the experience that we had at Reventax, where everybody was left in the dark, unable to do online transactions because they let the contract lapse without renewing it. They didn't plan, or, you know, that's what they said. And then that we have so many contracts out there, and when we ask, why is this so delayed? Why is this delayed? They're just being granted extension after extension after extension by the directors because they have that discretion, it seems, in the contracts and just in how they wrote their RFP. But those are the things. We need that to be accountable to all the people, not just us, but for sure us, but eyes on that. Like, and what discretion is being utilized in hiring, right? When you've got a list. Actually, specs are the biggest part, right, of procurement and even employment, right? What are the criteria? How are you eligible for this position? And I think I'm going to ask all the directors to really review those before you announce, is this fair? Is this going to honor those who have the expertise in this agency, or is this really, you know, geared for somebody else?
You mentioned that when you spoke with people in the Chamber of Commerce, some of these businesses said, we just want a fair shot. And one of the biggest complaints you'll hear from businesses who try to do business with the government of Guam, whether it's as a vendor or just as a business trying to get through the regulatory process, is that people can jump the lines, or the rules are not applied uniformly. You have different, an inspector, a fire inspector on one day says this, and on another day says that, or it takes very long to get a review through the Guam, that office over at Parks and Recreation?
One stop.
Historic Preservation, Historic Preservation, or a Department of Agriculture. On the vendor side, you have businesses who say, I'm not going to participate in these quotes or in these RFPs because it's rigged.
Yes.
Or they'll
really
say, I'm not going to participate because even if I win, they're not going to pay me within the 30 days or even within 90 days. What are your solutions to these complaints that these businesses have?
I think these are actually legitimate complaints. So, and we've heard them for many years. So, you know, part of this process is to track, right? So track the permit applications that go through the different agencies and see what's the truth, because the agencies will tell you, oh no, we responded to them, we're waiting for them. The vendors are like, no, our thing's sitting there. So the AG kind of put up a kind of a tracking system, but you know, we can get a professional tracking system. That went out for bid twice and failed due to protest, right? Twice. And so we just got to get that done. And I think there's been so many protests, and none of them have been found frivolous. They have been found like somebody didn't do something right, a large part of them. So I think we just have to increase the competency in these procurements of these systems. And these systems will help us to track those kind of things across the board. The same thing with the discretion in hiring.
And we have to impanel the Guam Advisory Council. They have to meet so that they can develop these standard operating procedures. So, everyone gets a fair shot. And this is one of the reasons why I reformed the small purchase law. I know I was criticized for it. Somebody criticized me for doing it, but the real reason for that was because one of the business people came to me and said, this is one way to break the system, is when you can have a no quote count. And so that's why I made sure that they had to be affirmative quotes. So that's not going to your pari, right? So
Can you explain that? I'm sorry.
So in the small purchases, all you need is 3 quotes, right? But they allowed for a no quote, which means, let's say, for instance, just hypothetically, like you're trying to procure pencils, or let's say air conditions, right? You can call 2 businesses that don't sell air conditions and your friend's business who does sell air conditions. So this is a way to circumvent the system and get your friend to get the business. So what I did with that law is they have to be affirmative quotes. So in that way, it kind of provides a safeguard. The other thing I did was it required market research and to also put in the record who you contacted. So there's more transparency and accountability with the use of small purchases. So that way, with market research, you know who's out there and that you could do your due diligence to contact all the vendors that provide this service.
A lot of times you can contact the same 3 over and over, and all the rest of the others are just left out. So there's really nothing to mandate that. I think ideally there's a list, right? So they are they have the ability to create lists, but I think they just haven't been keeping up on those lists of who has these types of supplies and who we should notify. There's nothing to prevent them from notifying more than 3.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I passed these laws for transparency and accountability. It hasn't been fully implemented. So even with emergency procurement, in the recent executive order, they just mentioned 30 days pursuant to the public law, and they didn't realize it was 90 days. So obviously the word is not getting out to the executive branch that laws have changed, and for good reasons, right? And that needs to change, that across the board we need to update the regulations, and across the board we need to standardize operating procedures so everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, I think in those writers that you saw, they still say no quotes are okay.
Those writers are incredible, to say the least. I think to the reasonable Guamanian, whether one watches the news all the time or does not watch the news or only watches the news seldom, there's a lack of public trust to the point of whenever we hear about the government entering into a contract with someone, our automatic thing is to suspect something about it and to suspect that somebody along the way got paid something they weren't supposed to get paid, and this was our money. What do you have to say to us who have those feelings?
I have to say they have legitimate reasons to feel that way. That's what we've been seeing too, right? Like their rationale keeps changing. That's why to me it's not true. So you hear rationale, oh, we did this and we leased these buildings, and then the rationale will totally change as to why they had to go on a more expensive.
You're talking about the government's rationale.
Yes. The government's rationale keeps changing. So I think trust is a big issue in this coming election because people do not trust their government. That's the number one comment I get when I go out. It's like, we really want you because we trust you, or because you fight for us, and you're not fighting for anyone in particular. You're fighting for all of us. And of course, I feel like that is my job. That's what we went in there to do, and I feel so honored when they say that because that's really what I tried to do when I went in there. And but they want to trust the government, and I feel like they will trust when it's open, when things are not hidden, when they can have hearings, when they can open it up for participation by the people. That to me, we get better that way. We get better when people can throw their ideas on the table as well. They have much more experience sometimes, and that's the name of the game. That's why participation by the people is very important.
You continuously rank as number 1, so obviously the people trust you as a senator. Why should they trust you as their governor?
I think they should trust me as their governor because I intend to fight for them just as I have been doing all these years, and because we want Guam to be better. We know we need to fix these basics, and then we need to, create these opportunities for everyone on Guam to grow. And that's really why we're spending our time and our lives doing this is because we want Guam to succeed. We want every child on Guam to succeed. We don't want them to find their future somewhere else. It's the saddest thing ever. And honestly, like the biggest tragedy for me is if during my time, they're going to find their home somewhere else because we failed. And because I don't want to fail them. And I feel like they will know exactly why I am acting a certain way on something. I'm not going to hide whose interests I'm trying to protect. I will lay out the pros and cons that I can see. And unless those are hidden from me, and you know, I try to find everything, I'm going to lay that out so everyone can see. And I do this consistently why I'm going a certain way.
Yeah, why should the voters trust Therese Terlaje to be the governor?
Well, first and foremost, we act with integrity. And you know, we're independent thinkers. Even I'm an independent thinker of Senator Therese. We don't go in with the same, you know, handbook, but obviously we end up in the same outcome because we look at the data, we look at evidence, and we base it on that. You know, with my scientific background, that's something I'm trained to do. With her legal background, that's something she's trained to do. And so, you know, we see Guam is in a very urgent state right now, and we're willing to step up to the plate to help our community. We've been in this position before, and you know, we've been tested in other cases, and tomorrow land trusts me with water, and you know, we fought for what is right, even though you know people dismissed the whole thing, and so we want to continue doing this work for our people because this is our home, our roots are here, and we will listen. We're listeners. We listen to what the people say. We don't rubber stamp things. We're not rubber stampers. We look for the good ideas, whether it comes from either party, because at the end of the day, Guam is our home. This is our home for everybody, no matter who you are, what party you're in. You know, so I think that is, you know, we're very, yeah, we're coming at this from a very honest place, and you know, I just think. We're tired of seeing the same thing happen over and over again, where a party gets the spoils of the war, right? The spoils of election. You know, we're not about that. We want to see long-term, sustainable, positive, progressive growth. And the only way to do that is, you know, being true to our people and listening and doing what's right based on the evidence and testimony.
Do you think that's the message that's going to get voters who are disenfranchised, they're disillusioned by the politics? Because I hear this a lot. I'm not going to vote because it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Is this the message you think that's going to bring them out? And if not, what is the message that's going to bring them out?
I think they need to know that if we don't change Guam now, we are going to lose our opportunity to do that. Yeah. It will be so entrenched. I think the corruption will be entrenched. The way of doing things, the same way, is going to be entrenched. And we need to change that now. If we're going to provide opportunity for everyone, we need to change that. It has to be done now. I really believe that. You can see tourism is suffering. They're talking about diverting to different industries. Well, which industries? Right? Is it going to be the Pari industry, or is it going to be a fair shot at all industries? And we're talking about, you know, reducing revenues for the government. So what services are going to be cut for you and your families? That's the most important thing. You think families are struggling now? If we continue to cut services for them or raise fees for them or make it harder for them to just live on Guam, we are going to see everything exacerbated. We're going to see the drug problems exacerbated. We're going to see homelessness exacerbated. We are on the brink, I think, of a homelessness crisis if we're not in it already. We already have double the amount of homeless people, I think, than the national average. And we have double the amount of people in poverty than the national average. We have a median income rate that is like 58, where the national average is like 83 or something thousand. And that's not sustainable. But we have resources here that are perfect for us. They can sustain us. We have to take care of them. We have to make it fair that everyone is going to share in these resources that we have, and that, you know, we just don't let anyone take advantage of that or ruin that for all of us. So that's why, because if they think things are bad now, things are going to get worse. That's what I am convinced of this. And we can see the trail. We can see it. You want more, incompetent procurement or preferential procurement, preferential hiring? That's when everyone will lose faith in the government. You want more distrust in the government? This is our shot at getting to trust our government. It really is.
One of the sorry, I'm a little taken away by what you just said. No. Thank you for saying that. What do you call it when you knock the wind out of someone? It kind of knocked the wind out of me. I get upset whenever I hear public officials saying things like, the economy is strong. And it makes me upset because I know that that's not true for most people. I know that's not true for me. I know that's not true for my family, for my friends, for my fellow parishioners at Our Lady of Lourdes Church. And I just cannot believe that that's true for most of the people on our island. Senators, what is our economy like for us, for the regular people? What's your understanding of the economy?
Yeah, so since I was a teacher, I saw my students who were on food stamps, and so they told me that they would go hungry at the end of the month until the next month came where they got the food stamps. So
this is something I've always admired that you've said in session. I remember you saying this quite a few times, actually. Sorry, please go ahead.
And so, but things haven't improved, as you can see with the oil prices going up to $100 a barrel, and with the what's happening with Iran and what's happening there in that area, things are not going to get better. And so, no, the economy definitely needs some urgent attention, and we see that with our tourism economy. Since COVID, it hasn't gotten better. And then now the military buildup they say it's going away in a couple of years. And so we have to do really kind of a all hands on deck kind of approach. How are we going to reboot our economy? We can't be complacent. And this is the problem with government, I think, is that there's a lot of complacency when there shouldn't be, because we need to be proactive. I believe proactive is the way to go. We always have to be continually improving our services, our government. We're living in a world that's consistently changing dramatically. We see the federal government pulling back on resources. With FEMA, they're about to, there's this rule that they want to push through where they're not going to give aid if you don't meet a threshold level, if you don't meet 4 times the level of financial harm. And so we're experiencing threats on all fronts economically. But there is hope, because I think there's innovation that we can use. There's federal tax credits that we can leverage. There are resources within our community. I think that the way forward is we need to diversify, build an export economy, localize our economy, of course, streamline processes so that it's easier to start a business and run a business. So we are definitely looking to creating and sustaining business here on Guam. I think the one thing we also need to do is ensure that our environment is protected. There's that notion that they're separate things, but I think we need to look to integrate both, especially if we're going to bring back tourism.
Yeah, it's critical. Our future, grandchildren will not have this opportunity to grow their economy if we ruin the resources that are available to them. If we can't have safe water, that will be the #1 factor, I think, in people leaving Guam and people not wanting to invest in Guam anymore. And so, yeah, they do work very hand in hand to protecting our economy and pivoting our economy. But it is very much like COVID, where many businesses were closed and they were at zero. And then we've got some, of course, that were allowed to be open, and they thrived. And it's kind of like that's how it's going with the tourism industry. They're very low, and there are some thriving because of the construction and the buildup. But Yeah, that's not a sustainable model. We need to expand. Yeah.
Can you describe, I want to pivot here away from our conversation on corruption, though the segues have been beautiful for me. you have already touched on the next topic, but I want to focus in more on the everyday Guamanian, on the street, in our homes, and I'm trying to understand, I want to know better whether you understand what it is that we deal with in our homes, right? And so can you describe what poverty is in Guam, what it looks like, who struggles with it, what they struggle with?
I think working families are struggling with poverty despite their being very hardworking. They sometimes are working 2 jobs, but the problem is we've got rising fuel costs, rising housing costs. It's kind of out of their range, despite working 2 jobs sometimes, despite the salaries that they're getting. It's just the salaries haven't kept pace with the cost of living. The cost of living, particularly in fuel, in transportation, is not set, and the housing. Those are 3 of the main ones, I think, that they struggle. And then so what they take away from is like, what can they provide to their children? Nobody wants to live like that, right? Where they dream of, I'm going to give my children everything I can give them. Let them join sports. Let them have, nice clothes and good food. But that's where they're going to have to cut, because the basics like fuel, housing, rent, and transportation are really just out of reach.
Yeah, so it's I think households have to come to a decision. What are they going to not live without, right, for that month? Are they going to not use the power? Are they going to have electricity that month because they need to pay for food and transportation? So I think we're coming to that place where, there's not much reserve. If for families that don't have reserves, they have to make these decisions. I think this is something that both Senator Therese and I have, with Therese and the gas tax relief, also with
the
GPA.
Liquid fuels, the
GPA
energy credit,
subsidies.
for the power bills.
Yeah.
The transportation, free bus passes for those who are in need, and especially we want to expand this transportation to a reliable system for jobs.
I remember back in the Calvo administration and even in the Camacho administration, but more so in the beginning of the Calvo administration during discussions about the programmatic agreement. The late Speaker Ben Pangilinan and now public auditor, but then he was, I think, Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz, had some very stark warnings regarding the military buildup. And they said back then, they predicted this. It was a prophecy, basically, that has come true. It was, we have to be careful about our housing supply, because when you get this many people coming in at one time, it doesn't matter who they are. You got this many people coming in at one time, they're going to need somewhere to live, and the price of housing, our people are going to be priced out of paradise. Fast forward to today, and just this morning, actually, I got a message from someone who said, Brother Troy, I don't know why the legislature or the administration is not doing anything about overseas housing allowance versus base housing allowance, because my second to the last child out of 5 is going to be leaving in 2 days. And so many others have left our island already because they cannot afford rent. And of course they cannot afford to buy a house. Your thoughts on this, and also the solutions that you offer?
Well, one thing I want to say is they weren't like vision. They didn't see that out of thin air. Those were actually studies done that were very, very clear at that time that this is what we're going to face in 10 years. And so most of those are true. And there were supposed to be mitigation efforts. And I think that's one of the things is we've got to hold them to the mitigation efforts, right? We've got to hold them to what we've already known was going to happen. And really just, it's that. And then it's, of course, doing what we can. I think that's, it's a federal issue, the housing allowance. But of course, that will make a difference. And just their policies now, whether they're going to build outside, build inside. That was the big debate back then when you're describing it, and everybody had an idea, but the goal is, what is the impact on us, right? same as when the construction for the military ends, are we going to have that same resources to construct homes for people of Guam? That's critical that we transition that. The workers, that all that pace of construction, that it actually be transitioned to housing.
If I can just add, the Missile Defense Agency, the record of decision states that they're not going to bring in all the troops unless they have the housing developed. So that's one thing we can hold them accountable to. But I agree with everything, of course, with what Senator Therese said. But we're sitting, the clock is ticking. We're sitting on a huge grant, the CDBG DR grant, which is $500 million. It runs out in now 5 years, probably less. And that can be used to build a lot of affordable units for our people. We just need to implement it. The other thing is the incentives for building in, repurposing buildings that are underutilized for housing. So we have a critical shortage, about 9,000 units. That was the study that was done in 2020 for the needs assessment. That's not military housing, by the way. That's just civilians. So I'm sure that number has increased since that time, and it doesn't include the homeless population. So we're sitting on this huge grant, hasn't been implemented so far that I can see, as far as building multifamily dwellings, which I think is the most affordable way to get to that. The other thing, the Congress just passed a really great bill for affordable housing that would help to do that, just that, repurpose buildings, underutilized buildings for affordable units. So we just need to implement these things.
Yeah. And what about
quicker.
The Chamorro Land Trust?
Oh, especially the Chamorro Land Trust. That's what we've been working on since I became a senator. It was pretty appalling, because that was at the time when all the kind of fiasco was found, and everything came to a halt. And it came to a halt. That really hurt those people who needed leases, who had been waiting forever, decades, generations. And so, yeah, we were able to kind of work through that and release the holds that they had on the system, put a system in place to prevent corruption. And then we put in, and this has never been done for the Chamorro Land Trust, is money for them to grow infrastructure, particularly sewer, so that they could double, triple the capacity of homes, or the density of homes on their property. So we even set out certain parcels of land that this was going to, be done for. And of course, we allowed them to partner with USDA and gave them the means to partner with USDA for this infrastructure as well. So I think the infrastructure is the key. And then we also fixed some of their leases that were $10,000 a year versus, $100,000 per cable times 6 cables, and, a landing fee, all of it just magnified what they could really obtain. And they're just going to begin now to get some of those leases that are going into their infrastructure fund. So really, management at Chamorro Land Trust is critical. And I really want to focus on that, because that's our housing.
Is that going to be a priority of yours?
Absolutely, because we are in an affordable housing crisis, and we are sitting on land that is designated for residential houses. What are we waiting for? There haven't been leases in months, and this is like a crime when you have people waiting for housing, honestly.
Yeah, to bring down the cost of housing, or one of the problems is the cost of construction, right, and labor. And so through the Chamorro Land Trust, the land, you don't have to purchase land, so that helps reduce the cost. With Chamorro Land Trust, there's going to be sewer based on the funding, so that would bring down the cost as well. If we repurpose buildings that have sewer already and utilities, that's going to bring down the cost. So any way we can lower the cost, whether it's multifamily dwellings too as well, that would help create more affordable homes.
What about any ideas on maybe changing of the building code, where you still have typhoon strength facilities, but not necessarily concrete and rebar facilities that cost a lot of money to build?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm always for that, obviously. But one of the things that I'm hearing is that insurance companies are becoming more risk averse, and so they're less likely to insure a building, and therefore they can't get loans based on that, unless they build it themselves, right? So that's also very difficult. So that's one of the issues with that.
We're hoping we can come up with like standardized, like Guam Housing can come up with a standardized framework for a house, right? So nobody has to go reinvent that wheel. And if you like this, you use this. And it meets the code, it meets their criteria and the bank's criteria, and just makes it faster for them.
One of the, Samuel Kim actually wrote about this, one of the best ways that Samuel Kim writes the column.
I love him. Yeah.
You love him, yeah?
Yep.
We love him. I've never even met him in person, but I love him too. He wrote that one of the most effective ways to make the cost of living better for everyone is to bring down costs. One of the most effective ways is to, in an island like Guam, use solar energy, renewable energy.
Yes, that's
absolutely, yeah.
Was that your bill?
No.
About the consortium of solar panels or something like that?
No, it wasn't my bill, but I wanted to amend it because right now there's a program that hasn't been utilized by GPA. It's the virtual power plant program where a developer can come in, put solar panels on somebody's house, and they can, make some sort of deal with them.
Yes, that's the virtual power plant.
Yes. So what I would like to do is expand that to GPA, because GPA has the opportunity to put these solar panels on schools and provide lower costs of electricity for the schools and the surrounding neighborhood.
Okay.
And so, and they know how the distribution system works, which they're always very, very sensitive about, because, if you put too much power in one area, it might cause a power outage somewhere else. So in their hands, they were able to competently accomplish this program. And that is very helpful. The other thing that I passed is the Guam Tropical Energy Code, which hasn't got much attention, but it is, it's very cost efficient, because what it is basically putting cool roofs, insulating your building, and it could lead to 50% reduction in your power bill, at least 50% reduction.
How do I get this? I'm sorry.
So going forward, this is the mandate.
Yeah, so we need to make sure this is mandated for buildings.
Oh, this is for the government to implement?
Yes.
What the government needs to implement is I want a 50% reduction
exactly.
in my power bill.
Yeah.
And it also includes electronics too. So I myself experienced 75% reduction in my power bill because of just the changing of electrical equipment in my house. So it's more than 50%. I think that's just a conservative estimate. It was done by this study was done by local engineers here on Guam.
Okay, I'm going to need to get some tips from you about doing that. I'd like to pivot here, but back to the main subject of poverty, and I'm curious, Senators, are you aware of the squalor that many of our people live in? And I'll give you some examples. Are you aware of how the homeless people along Harmon Loop Road and Route 16 are living, many of them in wheelchairs, unable to, some of them don't have legs. Are you aware of the the thousands of people in our island concentrated in Dededo and Jigo, but also in many other villages who live without power and running water? Are you aware of the living conditions over at Gil Breeze, Gil Baza, Swamp Road?
I haven't lived them, but we can see them.
Have you seen?
Yes,
you seen
and
these?
we've actually gone out even on the homeless count sometimes, but of course we've seen them occasionally, and it is, and we have a feeding center right down there in Aganya. We see them all the time, and we see where they live, and this is a tragedy, honestly. This is not taking care of the basics, and this is where I think all of us as a community, we have to address this.
How does this make you feel as a Chamorro woman?
Oh, terrible, because most of those are Chamorros. It's that's what the counts show, and just like the foster children, it's very, very sad. But I feel, and of course, angry, because why is that? And this is the thing. It starts, of course, I mean, we can give a lot of reasons for it, but we can't just say, oh, this is a problem that we always have had. No, I don't agree.
That's not true.
Yeah, it's so exacerbated now. And so there are different things. One of them is this Chamorro Land Trust took too long. I mean, it has to move faster. These are the same people. Some of them been displaced as entire clans from their land, and then they end up with nothing. Some of them just were never given the skills that they needed. Some of them just, we've got a drug problem. And that's one of the things that I'm very adamant that's going to be one of our priorities. If we're going to stop this meth from coming in as much as we can, because I don't think, again, that we should sit back and say, oh, this has been going on for 30 some years and we're just dealing with it. No, it's been going on for 30 years. We have got to make a dent in it. We've got to stop it. We've got to stop it in every way possible. I want headlines to show that, they are finding meth and they are stopping it from coming into Guam, not just at the post office, but at the port, at the airport, everywhere. And that we give them every tool available to us to do that. I really think that's a priority.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's intergenerational, because you see the kids oftentimes don't go to school because they don't have access to clean water or electricity, and so they don't go to school. And this has a huge impact. One of the ways that I see we can intervene, obviously, is with our social programs. So, about, I would say, I believe there were a large percentage of the early, from children from 0 to 5 years old are in the Medicaid system. And so we have an opportunity to reach out to parents so that they also include early childhood development in their awareness and in their practices. And that in itself can really break that cycle of poverty.
Can I tell you a story?
Yes, please.
So when I was a freshman senator, this is around 2018, that was when the headlines were about a child who was homeless being raped by another homeless person. This is 4 years old. And that just so infuriated me. And I just couldn't believe, how could this happen? And why do we have homeless children anyways, right? Why isn't what's going on in the shelters? So of course I had to really do a hands-on, check this out. And I did. And this is, the saddest part about this story is that this happened adjacent to a homeless shelter in an abandoned building, because there was no room in the shelter for the child, the family. So it still makes me very angry. That's why I'm getting emotional. But it's infuriating why, that actually happened. That happens maybe back then and maybe now, right? And everything was infuriating about it. First of all, there was no room, literally at the shelter. There was no room, and so we know that. Where are the shelters? Why is it taking them so long to open up shelters? We purchased property, some of them in 2021, and we're waiting for those shelters to open. Meantime, abandoned buildings, they're not taken care of, so that put it to use, make it safe, get them a door that can lock if we're gonna make them live there, or we're just gonna turn the other way while they live there. What happened in that case was eventually those abandoned buildings just got torn down. They didn't get fixed up. They were old government buildings. They didn't get fixed up. They didn't I don't know. So it was the whole big thing. And what I did was I brought all the women senators at that time to come with me to see what I saw. I wanted them to see the shelter. I wanted to see the adjacent buildings. I wanted to see where everyone was living. And I just wanted them to hear from the shelter workers about, what a shortage we have and how they prioritize people. And that really made me work very hard in this foster children situations to do oversight after oversight of CPS regarding the foster kids and how we're going to fix the situation when they were going to open up the shelter up at, the new shelter for the children, to maximize the capacity there. Because of course that's not ideal to have a lot of children, but it's better than them being on the street. So we did what we had to do in the law to make sure that they could bring in all the children that we can bring in, right? And but those are not the perfect solutions. Those are, just temporary, immediate emergency measures. So of course we have to take care of families that are homeless. We should prioritize them, and we just should never ever as a community say that that's okay. Never. I mean, yeah.
As we close up this interview, Senators, thank you for sharing that. So, by the way, Did you meet the 4-year-old girl or any of those children?
No, not the 4-year-old child.
But you saw other homeless children there?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, I didn't interfere with, they're suffering a tragedy, and yeah. So I asked the police as well back then, what do the police do if they know there are children and they know there are drunken people, in the surrounding area, and they say, oh well, we'll come if they call. But this is the thing, we know this goes on. We know where they live. We know what's the situation, and that's where I feel like it really just going to take leadership to prioritize these kind of things.
Have our poor been abandoned?
In many ways, yes, because like when the shelters are full, some of them are closing instead of opening, right? We're having problems keeping them open. We're having problems opening the supposedly new ones, and yes, we still have homeless children. We
2 days ago,
we still have veterans in their cars.
2 days ago, I got an email from a constituent who was in a line at 7:49 a.m. at the Department of Revenue and Taxation, and the photo that she sent showed the line.
Oh, yes.
More than 100 feet back from the building. It was a very long line, and she asked, "Where's the technology? Where's the innovation?" And following with your question, where are the homeless shelters? Where are the services for these people? And generally, where are the services? Where is the assistance for everyday people, especially for the poor, especially for the most vulnerable? When on the other side of things, what we do see the government doing is making every sort of accommodation for preferred vendors, big contracts. You saw the thing with the Simon Sanchez High School. The government's asking for a bailout for the airport, another bailout for the airport. Is that going to change in your administration? I assume the answer is yes. How will it change?
Well, of course, we want to focus on customer service. We know where these choke points are. When we push DRT, they tell us the answer is, it's in our procurement of the vendor, right? And that they are only available this certain hours, different funky things, or their system's down, the vendor, we wait for them to fix it. And so we've heard a lot of different things. But yes, I absolutely think this is a priority. It's getting licenses out. We actually passed a law to make all high school students get an ID or a driver's license, a real ID, so that they can work immediately upon graduation, and they are not going to be one of those that can't get a job and can't go to work and then can't get a house or can't get a place to live. That's supposedly to help them. Free bus passes to get them to where they need to go. They need to go to rev and tax, they need to go to the court, they need to go to counseling, whatever they need to do. Need to go to public health to get their benefits, all of it. But yes, so they've tried to make some improvements, and once in a while you see, okay, this is going smooth. But yeah, then we get back to the situation where the lines are long, and I haven't called them about that particular one, but I'm pretty sure it's related. It's going to be related to their contract with the vendor. That's why I say every contract should be reviewed when we come in, or any new administration comes in. You look at all those contracts. Is this serving us or not serving us, right? Are we going to renew this, or are we going to fix this, right? And are we getting the deliverables that were promised us, or are we going to sue them and get the deliverables that are due to the people of Guam?
Yeah, we definitely have to push for modernization. Unfortunately, this administration missed an opportunity when they implemented the FMIS system. They didn't integrate DRT, and that would have been huge. That would have been a huge improvement. So yes, it boils down, I believe, to also procurement issues when it comes to, like, for say, the homelessness. I was approached by a constituent that stated that they offered to sell their property, and they were questioning why the government purchased a higher price property. So, I mean, things like that, when we get the procurement in order, when we get fiscal responsibility in order, we need to focus on improving the outcomes for our people. And we do have, through modernization, through standardized procedures and procurement, it is our goal to make things better for our people.
It's kind of like, you got to know what your problems are when you're going to go out for a new procurement. Let's not repeat it. Simple as that, right? Or the auditors pointed them out over and over. It doesn't have to be my opinion. It's actually a finding in an audit. They're all over the place. They are fixable. They even tell you, make your plan to fix it, and we intend to be very, very strict about when you make a plan to fix the findings in an audit, you must complete that. You must. We have to make it better.
Senators, the election is on August 20. Why should voters wake up that day and commit to why should they go and vote? And what makes you different from your two opponents on the Democratic side such that voters should vote for you on August 1?
I think what makes us different is that you have seen us in our work, you have seen them in their work, and you can see that we are going to fight for the people of Guam across the board, not any special interests. That we don't have that kind of agenda. There's no one we have to take care of in our pay them back in our campaign. We are beholden to no one. And I think that's very different. I also think that you're gonna know from me why I'm doing something that I'm doing. I'm very open to that, and I'm not afraid to tell people why, and I'm not afraid to tell them the truth. In fact, I just think there's an absence of knowing what is going on in the government that is really plaguing all of us, right? If we're guessing why, is that because that's their party? Is that because, whatever, or what are we gonna get out of that? To me, that's no way to run a government, and that's no way for the people of Guam to live, kind of like at the mercy of somebody's, privilege or deference or, choices. It should really be, are we acting in the best interest of the people of Guam? Because this is the time to do that.
Yeah, I agree. This is a critical time, and I think, we act with integrity. I know you're going to hear it from our competitors that they want change too, and they're here for you, but you take a look at their records and see how they compare with us. And we've been consistent. We've consistently advocated for the interest of everyone, and we fought against private interests and corruption. And so, take a hard look at who your candidates are and see if they're, what they're saying is accurate. And
the things that we want to do, again, they're basic. It's a good governance. In any good governance book, you're going to see, oh yeah, it should be open, it should be transparent, it should be accountable to the people of Guam who are paying the taxes, it should be swift, efficient. Those are the basics, and that's how we're going to grow Guam, is getting those basics down. And again, we're going to take care of our environment while we do it, so that future generations can have that same opportunity, and we're not burning down the opportunities for them to make a fast buck today. We can see that as well, that we can see that. That's what's happening sometime. We're going to change this deal so that we get the best buck right now, and to hell with future generations. Why would we do that? That used to be, people would yell and scream in the legislature when people tried to put more debt on the people of Guam. But nowadays, it seems like, yeah, push it off to the future and let them deal with it. And I don't agree with that. I think what we can take care of and alleviate from future generations, that's what we're here to do, because we want them to stay on Guam. We want this to be their home. We want them to love it and to thrive, and to have businesses that can thrive. And to do these things, I just think fairness and, always asking that, is this for one special interest or for the best interest of the people of Guam? Really.
Senators, I want to thank you both for your time and ask you now if you can look into your camera. It looks straight at our audience and make your pitch to them. Ask them for their vote. And I'm going to just step away while you do that.
Hafaday, yes, this primary is a really critical time to vote for change for Guam, and we're asking for your help to make that change. Please vote Terlaje Perez on the Democratic side.
Yes, and again, we are here to fight for you. You've seen us fight for you. That's really our number one priority, is to make things so that you are going to continue to want to live on Guam. You're going to continue to want to participate in our government, and that our government is working for you, and you can feel it in your homes. It's not some academic theory, but you can feel it in your home. You can feel it in relief from the cost of living, in very concrete things like relieving the gas tax, relieving the energy whenever we can, putting more efficient services into the government so you're not waiting in line forever, so that you're going to be able to get what you need to go to your work, make a living, and take care of your families. It's really that we want to provide for you. And we don't want you to feel like things are unfair on Guam. We want you to feel like we can trust this government, at least they're going to be fair. And we're going to do the best that we absolutely can to take care of all the people of Guam. And that we should build these houses before we take care of anyone else, because that is really critical, and that we have concrete ways to do that. Again, maybe you're disenfranchised with voting because you can't see results, but I am pleading with you. We are running because we want to make results. We did not sit back and say, we can't change this. We have been trying our hardest in the legislature to change these things, and we have made huge impacts. But we are going to make even bigger impacts as your governor and lieutenant governor with the resources of the government of Guam, helping you. It's for you, and it should benefit you, and you should feel that it is there for you. So please vote. Please make the change. It's you who can make this change on August 1st. Please vote in the primary. We have to get through that primary, and we are very much asking humbly for your vote in this primary. Please help us change Guam. Thank you.
This is Masi.
God bless you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Leadership isn't measured by campaign promises. It's measured by a lifetime of keeping them. For years, Tony Atta has delivered results for the people of Guam. He authored Guam's Castle Doctrine, strengthening the rights of law-abiding citizens to protect themselves and their families. He passed laws protecting consumers, strengthened opportunities to bring more doctors and healthcare professionals to Guam, fought for small local businesses, and worked to make government serve the people, not the other way around. His record isn't built on speeches. It's built on action, on integrity, on keeping his word. That's what put Guam first means, putting our island first.
As your governor, I will lead with integrity, and every decision I make will put Guam first. I'm Tony Atta, and I humbly ask for your vote. I'm Tony Atta, and I approve this message.